We're here with Chad Paris and Parisleaf. Yeah. Cool. Well, it's good to meet you all. I'm sure Shawna's hopefully told you a little bit about me, and you all have had a chance to check out our shop. Who here is wanting to be designer specifically? Yeah, graphic design. What do we have left? Developer, copywriter? Illustrator, okay.
Concept artist.
Concept artist, okay. What do you want to do with that?
I want to design environments and characters for video games and perhaps movies.
Cool. When do you get the camera on you now? Like zoom in? Yeah. Yeah, cool. Sorry, so on the, did I hear you say video games?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Very cool. There's high demand for that. Mm-hmm. It's only growing. Yeah, so we're not going to talk as much today about the technical side of design, and more want to talk about what it's like to work in the professional environment. You know, I have a lot of different perspectives, I think, to offer, not just as an agency owner, but as an entrepreneur. I also try and talk to as many different business owners as I can. So, you know, met with Augie from Trendy a couple of times. So have that perspective, and you know, different dev shops in town. So, and of course, we'll talk about design, and not so much on the technical side. And I think you'll hear why here in a bit. You know, my background is not in design. You know, we just kind of like fell into this. So, thought we'd get started just by telling you a bit of maybe my story, and then get into Parisleaf's story. Gosh, it's like such a nice romantic setting. Yeah, I feel like the sun is setting. It's like, no, it's not the sun. It's like just the lights blinding me. Yeah, Steve, can you hear me? Okay. Yeah, so. God, is that you? No, Maury, it's me, idiot. No. Zoolander, anyone? Yeah. All right, so yeah, I was a terrible employee. I have worked at probably over 100 different companies, probably all before I was about 20, 21. Finally landed a pretty decent paying job, and one that I got a lot of really great experience at a t-shirt screen printing company. That's where I was introduced to design. Right around that time, there was that TV show where people got voted off the island. What was it called?
Survivor?
Survivor. There you go. Yeah. And people got voted off that island of designers. Like, it was wild. You know, like, like, all of a sudden, like, designer, it's like, what happened? It's like, we don't know. He died. Like, it was like really, really intense group of designers that were just super talented. This wasn't just like your run-of-the-mill t-shirt screen printing shop. This was a shop that about a year after I left, they were at max capacity. They were pumping out about 2,000 shirts an hour. So this was like a legit operation out of a legit city of Athens, Georgia. Go Dogs. And that's where I really cut my teeth, both in like real sales and account management and design. It was a really it was a brilliant experience. You know, we had a lot of brilliant people there. The culture was really tough, but you know, it was a great experience overall. Particularly, you know, at the ripe young age of 21, I think was when I joined on board. When I came there, like, my sole responsibility was like cold call, you know, all of these Barnes & Noble bookstores, try and sell them a bunch of shirts. And so they had me like off in this broom closet, like, you know, just banging out phone calls, and it worked out really well. I picked up a couple of accounts just from cold calling. They were like, all right, this guy's legit. Let's give him some accounts. So our specialty was collegiate license products. So we held, I think, something like 130 some odd licenses or something like that. It was pretty crazy, which particularly nowadays, like, there's some weird politics that are happening. Like, all of them are converging into like one group, and like only giving their licenses to a couple of like very, very select few. So there's some weird stuff going on there. But in the meantime, I was essentially given a book of business that was worth about $500,000 a year. which sounds like a lot of money. I think this company was doing about $15 million a year, so it was like a small little fraction of what they're doing. But still, it gave me a lot of responsibility, especially as a 21-year-old. I like to say that I grew that book of business from about 500 to close to 2 million by the time I left. In all reality, what happened was the Nick Saban era began of Alabama football, and I happened to have Alabama, and so they started kicking ass and we started making money. By the way, I wish I didn't cuss sometimes, particularly when I'm being recorded and it's going on YouTube. Sorry, God. not. Yeah. Anyways, I meant you, Steve. But yeah, so it was a really great experience working at the shop, but the culture was really toxic. It was a tough environment, and I got to a place where I'd come home at the end of the day and I just couldn't think straight. I literally felt like I was almost like detoxing. Like I just had this like cloud over my mind. I couldn't put sentences together, and I understand now how like disease is like happens in the mind and the body. Because if I would have stayed in that environment, I eventually would have become sick. I could see it happening in my brain, and so a lot of what it came down to was that I was doing things that I didn't like, that I wasn't good at, that weren't my strengths. And so I think the final straw that broke the camel's back was I reached out to my boss and I said, listen, I really need an assistant. I think if we got an assistant to help me like just input orders and like take care of all this stuff so I don't have to, and I can just be on the horn all day making calls, then I do a lot better. His response was basically, if I'm not getting an assistant, you're not getting an assistant. And then it ended in a lot of cursing and just screaming and expletives and me hanging up on him, and like that was kind of like right toward the tail end, because I was just like, I'll pay for them because I know I'll be more effective if I just like get to focus on what I'm really good at. So that was kind of like the beginning of the end. I don't think as a 21-year-old I didn't handle myself that well. I tried to take the book of business that they gave me, the yellow brick road that was like paved with gold by the time I was done. I felt like I was entitled to it. And I almost permanently burned that bridge. I don't know how I didn't. Somehow to this day, I'm still friends with my boss, my old sales manager, and the owner of the company. I've since made amends. I didn't successfully steal any of those accounts, but my intention was to like, I'm gonna put them out of business. I'll show these assholes. And so. I didn't really have like a clear sense of ethics. It was just kind of like, middle finger to the world, like I'm gonna get mine. It really was a pretty impactful experience for me. I behaved in a way that I didn't feel like was ethical, was clean, and I yet again just kind of burned another bridge. I mean, having as many jobs as I had before 21. I walked out on a lot of those jobs, and I didn't have those references or relationships that I could really lean on for mentorship or advice, or even just a reference or a letter of recommendation. Just walk out. I was really good at getting jobs, but man, I was terrible at keeping them. So, classic salesman. But anyway, so ended up coming to Gainesville, Florida from Athens. My girlfriend at the time got into a master's PhD program at the University of Florida, and so I came down here and just followed her. I worked remotely for that screen printer t-shirt company for about 6 months, I think, somewhere between 3 and 6 months. It went really well actually. When I got out of the office, I was actually much more productive. My sales went up. Like I felt cleaner, and I just like got out of this like very toxic environment as far as the culture. Like people just really negative, and so it was really nice to be away from that. It definitely helped that I could just like roll out of bed and just like put my headset on and like make some calls and like go make myself a cup of coffee and be like, whoa. Hadn't even put on my pants yet. I'm just working from my apartment, so like it was like a nice setup. But yeah, I think when things came to an end, it was like it was time for me to really move on. And around that time, a door had kind of presented itself to me, which was at a marketing firm. They probably had about 12, 13 people, I think. Handful of executive assistants, some account people, a few designers, VP, a COO, and a CEO. And it was a really cool experience. It was kind of a crash course in marketing. I think in that transition was the first time I realized I'm actually very creative. I thought I was always just a salesperson, but I remember I was like driving to Mississippi. I can't remember why. No, I think we were driving to New Orleans. And so we had like 8 hours, and so I just like started cranking out all these T-shirt ideas because I knew I was going into this marketing firm, and I knew that they wanted to launch a collegiate line, and it was going to be on me to basically act as almost like the creative director, and say like, this is what the market's looking for. Like, we need to come up with these T-shirt ideas, and I had that experience, that ability. I had learned enough from this original T-shirt group to be able to do that. And like that was the first time like my creativity just like sparked. It was like being given that right opportunity and the freedom and autonomy to come up with really great ideas. Here, I'm gonna move so you poor thing, like I see her just like, she's gonna sit like that for like 2 hours. So keep up, Steve. All right. Good? Do I get like that? And 3, 2, 1. No, we're good? All right, thanks guys. Better?
Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. All right, everybody can see. Good.
Perfect.
So, came over to this marketing firm and really got like an amazing crash course in marketing. I was there for about 9 months, but again realized like the culture was just really unhealthy. Realized that I did need kind of a better half. They gave me an assistant, which was amazing. Gave me an increase in my base salary. It's a really good experience, but I wouldn't have gotten that job if it weren't for the one before it. I wouldn't have gotten the job if it weren't for really hanging in there as long as I did, particularly, and just getting some really great experience. So, I mean, these are great like professional life experiences in particular. Like, don't burn your bridges, for starters. Like that's a major one. I got really lucky in that I got to rebuild that bridge. But with this marketing firm, like things looked amazing on the outside. Once we got in on the inside, I realized like it just seemed like everything was shady. It turned out they were talking about it being in a lot of different lawsuits. They were suing a lot of different people every single time an employee left. They threatened them with a lawsuit. And it just didn't seem like this is the right way to do business. And so I was there for about 9 months, and I remember one day my girlfriend and I were on a walk, and we just said, you know what, I really like paper printing, and I think it's got a good margin, a good profit margin. Like, I could go out and just sell this like crazy. We could focus a bit on the design side, maybe even factor in some environmental components, and like I think we can like really shake things up. Back then, it was also really cool to be like 22, 23 years old and be an entrepreneur and like a startup co-founder, and so we were just like, the hell with it. We had $164, got a business license, and launched our business. And we were off and running at like a snail's pace. And so about 6 months in, I think we did about $20,000 in revenue, and realized like this model was not working at all. We had a designer working for us at the time that had actually just come through Santa Fe's digital program. And he was contracting for us, and he had just started learning some web design tenets, and so we had a client come to us right around that time that he graduated, and say like, listen, really love working with you on the design and print side. Would you be willing to build a website for me? I have about $24,000. And we thought, well, that's about $4,000 more than we've done in the last 6 months. So yeah, hell yeah, we'll do that. We'll definitely do that. And I had my designer there with me, and he and I looked at each other and we're like, yep, we're gonna figure this out. And that worked out really well. The next year we grew like 600% in revenue. we started focusing really heavily on web. My wife, by the way, was, as I mentioned, my girlfriend is my business partner. She's now my wife. She became my business partner before my wife, so we became business partners before life partners. And when I told her that what we were about to do, like, she's very much like, no, we have a plan. We're going to keep heading that plan. Like, we will follow that plan off a cliff. And I don't care if we're going to die. We're going to. And I was like, listen, we got to go with this web thing. This print thing's killing us, and it's just not bringing in enough revenue. So finally, I convinced her. The next year, web was 80% of the company's revenue. So it was a really smart move for us. We started to move towards digital. It supported a lot of the environmental tenets or precepts that we had set at the beginning. We had decided on the printing side, we were going to reshape the face of the printing industry by planting trees and printing as sustainably as we could. And we've actually continued that mission, which has been really cool. We've planted about 150,000 trees all over the world. I'd say about 120,000 of those are in sub-Saharan African villages, and we've partnered up with this awesome nonprofit that does some really cool work with the trees. So people love asking questions about that. We can talk about that if you want to, more just out of general curiosity. But yeah, so after being in business about a year and a half, we had we had won an award which had opened up a door for us with this lady in San Francisco. We got a chance to work with her company, which was like a logistics company, and build her like a really cool website and visual identity system. It was it was really wild. When you get a chance, check it out. It's streamline-alliance.com. I think even to this day, it's pretty cool little visual identity system that we built for them. And she ended up bringing us into her other company, which was it was luxury lingerie bamboo line. And so we ended up doing some work for them, not much, but a little bit of work for them. But we still, what we did was we just focused on doing really great work and really taking care of our clients and trying to be as affordable as we could at the time because we were still trying to get the thing going. And what ended up happening was she said to me one day, I want to introduce you to my husband. He's got this little startup, and I think you need to chat with him. So they're in San Francisco, and we look at this little startup, and they had just closed about $100 million in funding. And we were like, oh my God. So we get on the phone with him, and he goes, his name's Jérôme Lacotte. He says, Chad, I want you to reskin my website. And it's like reskin. It's like, how dare you? I smack you. And so we sat there and just asked a lot of questions. I think that's a really important part of creativity. It doesn't matter what you're doing, whether it's on the visual conceptual development, really asking questions, becoming obsessed about the user, right? And really getting into the user's mind. So we had probably 2 or 3 different conversations. I think they had a $15,000 budget. It was a great budget. We could build a great website for that. But let's talk a little bit more. I want to hear about the mission of the company. Tell me about the culture and why does this matter? The product wasn't really that sexy, and so you had to figure out what is that sex appeal when it came to the brand. And I don't mean that in the sex sells way, but how can we make this a really appealing story without painting a fake picture? We don't like smoke and mirrors. And so tell me what's there that's already really attractive about your company. So after talking to him for a couple of different conversations, I ended up hearing him say things like, it takes anywhere from half an hour to an hour and a half for somebody to understand our product. And we thought, okay, that's a big flag. Mm-hmm. And reskinning the website is not going to fix this, Jerome. So we came back to him and said, Jerome, we think you have a bigger problem, and reskinning is not going to do it. We really think that we need to go through a full rebranding. We need to do a ton of research, get into the minds of your users, figure out what makes you so unique and so special. For those miracle customers that made it through an hour and a half long sales pitch just to understand the product, we want to talk to them about why, and really like get into their minds. And so what started off as a $15,000 budget turned into a $150,000 budget, I think, when it was done. So it was nice. We just added a little zero on the end. It's like, oh, it's a mistake. It was an accounting error. No, but we ended up doing just a ton of work for them, which is great. And that really projectiled us into where we are today. I'll forever be grateful for that company. It's called Scality. They have since scrapped the website, which is the original reason why they came to us, but they kept the brand. Never seen our brand on the side of a sailboat except for these guys, so that was pretty fun. 2 sailboats, actually. Both the CEO and the COO have, or had at one point, our logo on the side of their boats. But yeah, so the brand is called, or the company called Scality. I think they've since like kind of taken it and run with it and like kind of kicked the crap out of it, and so now we're back, and I'm trying to get back into that relationship. So anyway, so that's kind of how we turn into what we are today. There are a lot of brilliant creatives that we've worked with along the way to help us get to where we are. I had no idea what I was doing. I just was a lowly salesperson, and it's not just the creatives that helped us get there, but it's also the mentors. And I know we're here to talk about like professional development as much as we are to talk about design. I'm sure if Shawna wanted you to talk to a designer, she would have asked my creative director, not me. I will tell you, I'm the gatekeeper for Parisleaf. You don't get in our doors without talking to me. Actually, more recently, and Steve will appreciate this, we brought in his old colleague, Jen, to come partner up with us, and she's since been working with us to basically help me with the gatekeeping aspect, because we're getting to a place that we're doing really solid work, and so we're attracting some really great talent, and it's too much for one person. And I also want to make sure that every single person that makes that effort to throw their hat in the ring, it takes a lot of courage. So I want to make sure that we make that personal contact and reach back out to them and thank them for throwing their name in the hat. But it's a lot. I mean, we had our creative director who basically started with me. I don't know if you ever met Patrick, but just like wicked talented, creative.
So he taught a class.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. So yeah, Patrick Sanders was our creative director for about 4 years, and I really feel like he and I built the agency together with Allison. Like we just like running full bore, and Alice is just like picking up the pieces behind us as we went along. But just like super brilliant, creative, conceptually, brilliant in building relationships, incredibly empathetic, like really great listener, like super, super deep listener, always heard what wasn't being said. So he left, I guess, about 2 years ago, hashtag because Gainesville, and went to Portland, hashtag Portland. And I did just say that on camera, Steve. Just boop. Definitely, please believe that. No. But yeah, so he went to Portland, and so we opened up a position for a creative director. And all of a sudden, we had 350 applications come in for the creative director posting, and it was pandemonium. It was insane trying to it's literally finding a needle in a haystack. It was so hard to find the level of talent, the level of leadership, the creative abilities, the conceptual abilities. Like there's so many complex facets to a great creative director that were really hard to find. And so we found our needle in the haystack. His name is Matt Steele. And I think his website is like Steele Makes or something like that, pretty sure. But I think his bio reads something along the lines of, I'm a designer who writes, a father of 4, and I don't remember the rest. But those first 2 things stood out to me. It's like, not so much he had his priorities in alignment, like he's a designer who writes first and then has all this village of children, but it's like those things are what matters most to him. I think there's I know he's got religion's really important to him, and that's that's great, it's fine. But yeah, so we have had a lot of different types of creatives coming through our shop over the years. Everything from illustrators to graphic designers to those that are just like obsessed with typography to developers, videographers, copywriters, you name it. I mean, just like a lot of really super talented folks coming through our shop. So I'm gonna stop for a second. I have like this like crazy list. You see all those little bullets? This is the list that Shawna sent me. So I'm hoping that I checked off at least one of those in like the last 30 minutes. But
Tell your story.
Yeah.
Just tell your story.
I really want to hear from you all. Like, what do you want to know? What are you hoping to get out of today? What research have you done? I'm here as a volunteer to help you guys. I will say I've been like through the school of hard knocks in figuring this out. By the way, I found out just July I have an associate's degree. I thought I was a college dropout for 10 years. It turned out I had all the credits I needed. I don't really need a piece of paper to be an entrepreneur. There are a lot of like some of the world's greatest and most successful entrepreneurs are college dropouts. I like wore that badge proudly on my shoulder, for like the first 6 years of being in business. And then I found out in July, I was like, I have all my credits. Like, all you have to do is mail this check for $65. It's like, man, I feel like this is like a mail order. Like, so it turns out I have an associate's degree, which I know all of you are about to finish your associates.
Yeah, in order to have an AS, they have to also, if they want to go into a four-year school, they have to have their AA too, so they could have 2 associates by this point, some of them.
Got it.
Yeah.
Cool. That's great. Well, I will tell you, I think it's important to mention I'm kind of like somewhat of a recession adult, in that like I came into adulthood at the height of the recession. So, this idea of like a piece of paper guarantees you a 6-figure job, like vamoosh, like overnight. We had kids coming out of like some of the most prestigious schools coming to work under me as a college dropout, as like a junior sales rep for $20,000 a year, which is a great living. That's it's nothing to scoff at, but like that piece of paper doesn't guarantee anything anymore. It's really like it's about your portfolio, it's about your experience, it's about your skills. It's about your soft skills. Like, those are the most easily overlooked skills. We spend so much time focused on developing our craft that we forget that like we're developing our craft for humans, no matter what. Everything we do is about developing and designing for other human beings. And so, like, listening is a skill that can be developed, and that seems so silly, but like, write that down. Like, that listening is a life skill. The universe, God, Buddha, whatever you want to call it, gave us 2 ears and a mouth for a reason. We should be listening twice as much as we're talking. And same thing with our eyes, like really watching, like facial expressions and body language and tone of voice. So much more than just what's being said. That's why text messages and emails, like, it can be so easily misconstrued. I prefer like face-to-face conversation. Let's go what we now call old school. Let's meet face-to-face, like, but yeah, so I'm here to answer your questions. So fire away. What we typically do is I want to hear your question. I'll just start writing them down. I'm not going to answer them right out of the gate unless it's like a quick yes, no. And then I'll just go back through the list of questions and kind of knock them out. Go for it.
So you talked about how you have worked in toxic environments before, and I've worked in toxic environments before. So I'm wondering, as a business owner, you're sort of in charge of the environment.
Yep.
So how do you make sure that you don't have a toxic environment for your employees?
Great.
Or also, is there like advice that you would have as a junior designer or something to make sure that we are contributing to a positive environment?
Okay. All right, who's next? Don't be shy. There's no stupid questions.
In terms of hiring,
Yeah.
are you? I guess like what do you think are the top maybe 2 or 3 qualities that you're looking for in a junior designer or someone just starting out?
Mm-hmm. Okay. You've taught them well. They're thinking from the perspective of junior designer. It's not like I'm going to come out of school and I'm going to be a creative director.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm going to start my own
Well,
firm.
and even you talk about soft skills. I mean, this semester they've talked about how different this semester is because this is a professional practicum class, and there's
Yeah.
no project in this class. Like last Monday, we talked about ethics. There's a whole class about ethics.
Yeah.
And so we're talking about those things.
Did everybody stay awake during that class?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing. I
was
would
more
have been like, hoodie up,
conversation.
earbuds in.
Yeah. So no, we don't do that.
Yeah.
They're very like. I think our
Engaged.
students are super respectful as well, but they're also very interested in. They've committed themselves to this field.
Yeah.
You know.
By this point, we would have dropped out if we were.
Right.
Yeah,
Like
you're not here
ethics,
because mom and
schmetics.
dad told you to be. Yeah, I mean, and maybe that's a part of it. But yeah, that's been my experience of Santa Fe students. Like, there's like a degree of seriousness about life
Yeah.
that I experience out of Santa Fe students, and like a degree of maturity. I think, I don't want to make a generalization for Santa Fe students, but like it seems like from what I've experienced, more Santa Fe college students have experienced adversity than University of Florida students, which I have a ton of respect for. And going back to your question,
Toxic
like
environment?
no, the qualities, like that's one thing I look for. It's like I want to know you've kicked out of you, frankly, because if you haven't, then you have no perspective. It's like, there's no toilet paper! It's like, dude, people are dying. Like, somebody just died. Somebody else just died. Like starvation exists. Like, so like adversity brings that perspective and like really polishes those rough edges that I see with a lot of
That's a nice way to
Santa Fe
think
students.
about it. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. All right, who's next?
Okay, I have a question.
Yep.
This goes back to education. I agree with you that, sometimes I feel like a degree is just a piece of paper. I mean, I think it teaches you, like, grit, and I'm not downing it, but I guess especially in our field, you don't necessarily need that degree. Like, your portfolio, should do that work for you. But in your case, did you have any adversity with, I guess, proving yourself that you are worth it without that degree? And how did you do it, if so? Follow-up question.
Hang tight.
Sorry.
Okay.
It's a long one.
No, it's great.
Right. Yeah.
No, fire away. I want every single person. I want to know every one of your questions.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess from the perspective of you being a business owner slash about designing and stuff, say like in the long run we wanted to go that direction, what can we do to save us time or money or a heartache along the way?
Specifically an agency?
Yeah.
Yep.
I have another question.
Okay.
So I'm assuming that you've looked at
Thanks.
a lot of portfolios. I'd like to know what makes a portfolio stand out, or
Yep.
That reminds me. Being in portfolios, we had to recently write our cover letters and then read them out loud and go over them in class. So, in terms of cover
Terrifying. It's
letters,
a cover letter for a reason, not a talk. Yeah, cover talk. Yeah.
So in terms of cover letters, is there something that like immediately turns you off on someone, or it makes you interested in wanting to look at their resume?
do's and don'ts of cover letters, resumes, and portfolios.
Hold that thought.
Cover it off.
Time. Something off. Sorry, and she said something that stands out, something that immediately turns me off, and
And
then
something
immediately.
that will make you want to go on to the resume, or like that you're like, oh yes, I want to see what this person has, or maybe get to the interview process, I guess.
Good to know them.
Okay. Come again.
Do's and don'ts for, I guess, cover letter, resume, and portfolio. And interviews.
Yeah, thanks. I was about to say.
He's like, wait, there's another step.
Yeah, I was about to say, man, I got a great do's and don'ts for an interview.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Oh man, I got so juicy.
Good, because they have mock interviews coming up.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. It's like, oh, it's so good. Yeah.
Can you tell us the best leave behind or the best, like, thing that someone sent you who was interested in a job? Like, I don't know, a mailer or something that
Left an impression.
left an impression.
Or
Yeah,
made an
in
impression,
addition
maybe,
to
yeah.
the normal stuff.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking about doing a mailer.
Mm-hmm. Especially
Okay.
since you're going to be new to the market.
And if you, I guess, sorry, I'm trying to figure out the right way to word this. Would you ever hire someone who you can see has potential in, like, to do the job but doesn't quite have the refined skills, so you would train them with that, I guess is the right way to put it?
Mm-hmm.
No, that makes sense. Yeah. So hiring someone that doesn't, that has the potential, doesn't have the refined skills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
hear
can
you.
add on to that. Okay, so in the meantime of like you considering if you wanted to hire that person because of what their potential is, what would you like expect to start them out at, as a salary? If you was hiring like an entry level out of school,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that.
Real?
Yeah. Now versus like when we first started, it would be a very different answer. Yeah. Today would be nothing.
Nothing.
Like you're gonna intern for me. If I'm gonna give you my time because of your potential, and like not your refined skills, like man, I can't tell you how many like brilliant chefs or copywriters be like, man, how about you pay me? Like the experience you're about to get here, like if you can't afford it, go work at a print shop. Like if you're wanting me to hone your potential, I don't know. I need to think about that
Well,
one
I
more.
mean, they got it all without the potential part. Someone looking for a job and you're looking for
Oh, somebody who's there.
yeah,
Cool.
without the potential. That's what
Yeah.
I was meaning.
By the way, the answer for that, like somebody that has the potential but not the refined skills back
Yeah.
then, different answer for salary. So really just salary in general?
Yeah, just in general, entry level junior. Yeah.
Okay.
Not so much
Yeah.
of, I guess, a part of a question.
Yeah, I wasn't asking about salary, I was just asking, would
Yep.
you hire someone?
I was
Yeah.
going
Okay.
saying.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got them.
No, I just kind of like pulled them together because that could be a surprise too. It's like, all right, like, yeah, you have tons of zest for life. That's fantastic. Like great communication skills, brilliant listener, terrible designer, but I believe in you. Like, I'm not gonna pay you.
Oh no.
But yeah, let's come back to that because it's a really interesting question that I think my today answer and my 4 or 5 years ago answer would be very different because that's all we were. We were a shop comprised of people that had a lot of potential, and that's what we sold. It's like, man, we don't know what the heck we're doing, but we have confidence. Yeah, and we did it. I mean. Honestly, like 99 times out of 100, somehow, like we were a figure it out kind of shop, anyways, yeah. All right, I want to hear from you two.
Yeah, I was wondering about the challenges you've had in creating a business.
Okay. This better be the best question.
I guess whenever you're looking to partner with a designer or someone, do you have a like a certain, I guess style that you look for in them, or if they're like very unique, does that interest you? If it's not like similar to your team's
Yeah.
styles or
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So a certain style that we're looking for is unique good.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think unique as long as it's still on this planet. You know, we're hiring designers, not artists.
Mm-hmm.
Like artists, you create for you, and if other people don't like it, they can piss off. But like design, we're creating for the user. You know, so it's
I say the same thing. Like artists can
Yeah.
create from their soul and hope somebody likes it and buys it.
Yeah.
But a designer, you're
Yeah.
getting paid to create something that works.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Like your work is being commissioned, and so I'll come back to that more. That's a juicy one. Yeah.
What is the?
I was gonna come to you. You better have a
I
good
was
one.
just getting on.
I
Best
like
for
to
last.
listen to everyone's answer
Yeah, yeah.
questions before I ask
Yeah.
them. Top bars.
Right?
I knew somebody was gonna ask it eventually.
Yeah.
What is the worst thing about working with clients, and what will you not do?
Worst thing about working with clients and what I will not do?
Yeah, like if there's anything that you wouldn't do that someone asked you to do.
Ooh, ethics.
This goes back to Monday.
Okay.
I don't know if she was supposed to be the last question, but I haven't.
Nope.
He's writing them on that.
Far away, far away. Sorry, I'm like, I feel like I'm on stage, like thespians coming out. Yeah. Sure, let's do it. Yeah.
Okay, I'm wondering what percentage of your workers are people that you know or know of, or, you know, because they say a lot of jobs have been through who you know. So I'm wondering if that's truly the case with you. And a follow-up question to that is just networking tips and what, yeah, if you understand my.
Yeah.
I'm not good at wording things.
No. Yeah, because the expression, like, it's all about who you know.
Yeah.
And so, like, you're wanting to know how many of our employees are just because, like, somebody knew somebody, and then just general, like, how do you get to know those
Right,
people? Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, I gotcha.
You know, I can ask that, Sean.
That was all good. Y'all are
Okay.
asking great questions.
Yeah, these are great. These are awesome questions. All right, fire away. Keep going. We got like an hour and 45 minutes, so no, hour and 15. Why don't we start there?
Yeah.
Anybody else? Final questions?
Do you allow dogs in your office?
Yes, but there's a limit. You know, like, you can only have so many creatures running around. Like,
Oh, I have another question.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No worries.
Not about dogs this time.
Creatures running around.
What kind of things do you do to keep the creativity flowing?
I was gonna ask
Like
that.
stuff like, I don't know, like Nerf battles and like, you know, the ice bucket challenge and stuff like that. Like, do you ever do like fun stuff with your employees?
Okay, yeah. I'll come back. Yeah.
You just gave them ideas.
No, like the answer is we used to do a lot more of it, and now we just like put our heads down and just do solid work. Like we find fun in the work that we do, and we try and do things for the culture. Probably not as frequently as we should, and nowhere near as frequently as we used to. Just because we're now like, oh, we're a business, not a nonprofit. Like we got to figure out how to like actually make this engine run permanently. You know. So I'll come back. Anything else?
Yeah, I was wondering if conflict has arisen in your workplace.
No.
So,
Never.
Not at all.
I'm sorry. Please finish.
no. I was gonna say,
Yeah.
so how was it handled?
Yep.
How would you handle it?
Like between employees.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it happened yesterday. Seriously. Yeah. I mean, if it's not happening, then you're not being honest, in my opinion. Like, and that's in any relationship. It's not just as an employer. I wouldn't say it happens every day, but it's not. It doesn't have to be seen as a negative thing. It's just like conflict happens when friction exists, and friction happens when you have two opposing forces pushing against each other, which is almost like the essence of creativity, But I think it's also, it comes back to the adversity point. Like you gotta have tough times to get through to grow. Like I didn't grow when everything was going my way. It's like, oh my God, everything's fantastic. Like cha-ching, 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 like bank account, boom, 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 like car, everything's going my way. Like, and like, ask me all the life lessons I learned in those times. None. Those were a result of conflict plus conflict equals some success. All right, we got any more questions? I'll come back to that. We're gonna talk more about it. Cool. Thank you. Awesome questions for starters. Like, really love great questions. It means, you know, you're really critically thinking, which, like, I don't know. It's a learned behavior. I don't know if it can be taught. It's just kind of like, hey, like, wake up! You know, really, like, that's what it comes down to. It's like, oh man, like, there's like a whole world outside of this one spot that I stand on. God, if like only you guys could like pull in motion graphics, Steve, into like what's going on in my mind. It's just like, hey, things would have zoomed out real quick. Like the whole world would have come from under my feet. Yeah. I'm gonna be disappointed if I see this on YouTube and it's not in there. Yeah. All right, so working in a toxic environment. I'm gonna ask you a question. Please just raise your hand just as a reminder so I can make sure. Thanks. Working as a toxic in a toxic environment, as the business owner in charge of the environment, how do I make sure we don't have a toxic environment? Really, it comes down to the hire. I think that's a big part of it, and then the fire. Hire slow, fire fast is the rule. So, like, really make sure that you have thoroughly vetted candidates. And the reality is, you don't know how good they're going to be until you just bring them in. But sometimes people go through tough times in life, and that causes them to have a bad attitude. If that is a trend for a long enough period of time, you cut that loose. Because that toxicity will fester. It is 100% bad apple, cancer, call it like the bad apple analogy is like a real thing. If you have a spoiled apple, what is it? A spoiled apple ruins a whole bunch. What's the expression?
A bad apple.
Bad apple, yeah. Bad apple ruins a whole bunch. It literally does. If you have one apple that's sitting in a bushel of apples, who the heck gets a bushel? But a bushel of apples, right? And it's like spoiling. It literally releases these gases that causes the apples around it to spoil. That is exactly what a toxic environment is like, and it is like. It has to be a heartless job sometimes, which I'm not capable of. Like, I am aware we are working with humans, and these humans have feelings, and I hate when adversity comes at my hand. But if it means protecting the greater whole, and even if all we got left on that island is me and my business partner, my wife, I'm going to cut everything else loose. And we'll rebuild. Fortunately, we haven't had to get there, but it's like, why let it literally spoil every single one of us? Because if Alice and I get spoiled, we just shut it down. Like, we have to protect. Like, that's the core. So for starters, like, it starts with like it starts with great hiring. You know, the best management that we can do, the best support that we can offer. The best training that we can offer, the best projects we can bring in, the best money we can offer, like everything, like we do the best that we can do. And if that's not good enough, that's okay. That is so okay. High fives all around. It's a pleasure working with you. Let's just call this what it is, you know. I had a bad apple say those exact words. I sat down with her and just said, like, this is not going well. Like, you went from like bad to toxic to just poisonous, and I don't know why I've let you hang in there this long. And she was just like, you know, let's just call this what it is, buddy. I was like, you are so right. Thank you for affirming that for me. Like, really appreciate how professional you just were. Like, I needed you to do that. Like, I needed that, because it was really hard for me to cut you loose, because I looked around one day and more than half the bunch had gone bad. That was my fault. I let that happen. Maybe I managed poorly, sure. You know, maybe I let it spread. But when I started to see that toxicity begin, I should have immediately nipped it in the bud, and I didn't. And that just comes with experience, just adversity, yet again. Like, I needed to learn what it was like to work for bad managers to make sure that I didn't want to be one. And I needed to learn what it was like to be a bad manager, to make sure that I pushed myself to make sure that I'm not one. And I still have room to grow. I'm like maybe a 7 as a manager, like a 9 as a leader. That's just like, that's who I am. I'm much more about like, rally the troops, we're going this way, follow me off the edge of the cliff. Trust me, there's money, let's fly. But as a manager, I know I have room to grow, and so I really I put people around me that I know are better managers than I am, that I know are smarter when it comes to management, that frankly have more courage to have that difficult conversation than I do. Because I'm much more about like, guys, keep positive, let's roll, like, got this crazy new idea, let's go, than like, hey, listen, I know you don't really like this idea, but please, we're gonna jump now. Hope you need to follow us. So, does that answer your question?
That wasn't mine, but I was like, that's good though.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. The voice, the impression, the whole thing.
All of it.
Yeah, cool.
So how would
Uh-oh, we're developing the question. All right, go.
junior designer though?
Yep.
I don't know. I guess.
Yep. How do you
not
make
be
sure you're
that asshole,
contributing?
you just-
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Oh man, I got a great answer for this. Okay. Remember that you're a junior designer. Like, it's so simple. Don't be in such a rush. This world is moving so fast. However, your skills are not. They're not moving at the speed of technology. They can't. They're not moving at the speed of light. So in 2 to 3 years from now, like, I'm ready to be a creative director. Like, shut up and sit down. It's like, no, you're not. And that's okay. Like, I don't know. I have heard of, we had a senior copywriter working for us who was literally a senior. He was 65 years old. It was great. I learned so much from him. And I say out of respect, like, this guy was like wicked talented. I asked him what he wanted to be when he grew up in our interview, and I wasn't kidding. And he said, man, I just want to surf. And I was like, awesome. Like, I knew his background, I knew his resume, I didn't even look at his portfolio. I looked at my creative director and said, just bring him on, and he became a mentor to me. But where was I going with that?
Not contributing to toxicity.
Yeah, I don't know how I was going to tie all that crazy story back together.
That's okay. Start over.
Anyways, the guy put in his dues. He celebrated, I think, 25 years as a copywriter with us, and he was still a senior copywriter. He didn't want to be a creative director. He didn't want to be an ACD, and he could have been, but he put in his dues, man. And like, we've had some juniors come work for us, and they're so eager to be seniors, and they hate that term. Get over it, seriously, and get over yourself as quick as possible. As soon as you walk in that door, put your ego on the bike rack, on the whatever, like, leave it at the door. We don't have time for that. We don't. Like, come in like hungry and ready to learn for the next 20 years of your life. It will be great. Like, be ready to like be 100% committed to your craft for at least 5 to 7 years. That's great. You have a piece of paper. You worked under Shawna. She is like taught you everything she knows, but it's conceptual. The piece of paper is a concept. You come saying, in concept, in theory, I have grit. I can design. In theory, I have enough like patience to make it through a design program. But as a concept, there's no proof yet.
Right.
After a year, not enough proof. After 2 years, not enough proof. After 5 to 7 years, around that time, you will start to hit, the 10,000 hour mark. It takes 10,000 hours to become an expert at anything. And so 2,000 hours a year typically is about how much a 40-hour person who puts in 40 hours a week averages. So you want to get there faster? Fantastic. Work 80 hours a week. But you're going to make yourself sick. And I've seen that. It's crazy. Like, I can't tell you, like, mental illness runs rampant, like divorce, drugs, all that, like, runs rampant in a lot of these bigger shops in particular. Because it just worked for people like a dog. 60, 70, 80 hours. Man, like 60 hours a week is what we expect out of you minimum. And that happens at some of these bigger shops. So as a junior designer, first humble yourself, like coming full circle, humble yourself. understand you are a junior designer. You are there to learn for as long as it takes. A minimum of 5 years. It's going to take a minimum of 5 years to find out how good you are. And like being fully committed to your craft and just super hungry, like super curious, but also not entitled curious. Like you are not entitled to me being your daddy. Like and I'm sorry, like there's no other way to sugarcoat that. Like I have had employees who almost treat us that way as the leadership team. It's like that's not what I'm here to do. Your emotional stability, not my responsibility. I'm here for you. You want to talk as a friend. You know, you want to go out as friends, go grab an apple juice after work. Totally do that. But like, yeah, my responsibilities only go so far, and I want to help people develop their craft. But like those like foundational things, like, and not being entitled, gratitude, like so simple. Make gratitude lists every morning. Write 10 things you're grateful for, and your life will drastically change. Like drastically change in like 10 days. Like come in with a grateful heart. What else can a junior designer do to not contribute to a toxic environment? If you see it, say something about it. Where did that come from? Like if you, I don't know, like, huh? I think, yeah, no, airports, there you go. Yeah.
Santa Fe has
Yeah.
the same thing. If you see it, say something. Yeah, see something.
Who is your loyalty? Who is your loyalty to? Do you want to help the company grow? Or do you want to help some schmuck who's talking about the company he works at, who is paying their bills and spreading toxicity throughout the company? Who is your loyalty to? If that person doesn't like their job, it is your job, every one of you, it is your job to help them find a new one. By going like, hey, listen, you need to talk to this guy, get him out of here. He's clearly not very happy. And if that company is then aware that a toxic person exists and they keep them around and they don't do anything about it, then you know what kind of company you're working for. They don't care about the toxicity. That's okay. So it's now your job. But like, do not become so loyal to your friends at work. Like, being a rat is like that's jail. Okay, we're not talking. This is real life, people. All right, I'm not talking about being. It's like if you're not happy, I care about you enough to help you find a new job that's not here. Otherwise, like right now, you're a leak in this big vessel that will ultimately turn into a big hole and is ultimately going to corrode the entire base of the ship, and we're all going to go down.
Right on.
Sounds crazy.
Have you?
I'm basically telling you, don't be loyal to your friends, be loyal to the company, right? But it's like, it's kind of being loyal to yourself as well.
Right.
And it's saying the sum is greater than the individual parts. Save the ship in spite of the individual. That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Did that answer your question?
Yes.
I could go so much deeper because
No, that's great.
I've seen some juniors come in. They just don't understand. They have to put in their dues and grind it out and do whatever you got to do. Do whatever you got to do, and like make sure you have a great mentor in the process. Working at a print shop, you're probably not gonna have an amazing mentor at a print shop. Like, yes, I have seen some people that have been designers for, I mean, we've seen designers that have been designers for 15, 20 years and they still suck.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay.
Absolutely.
And like, they're supposed to, like, go work at a print shop, or be a freelance designer. Like, I don't know, maybe conceptually they're great. Like, I don't know. But like, just because you put in your dues doesn't mean you're gonna be good. Maybe you're just supposed to know design really well, and then you're supposed to go out and sell it so other people can do it. But like, move towards your strengths.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not good, you're just not good. I'm terrible at calendaring, emailing, organizing, and like basically everything that doesn't have to do with people. And so I hire a bunch of people around me to make sure they do it. As much as I want to be so good at like sending emails and putting together proposals and putting together processes and designing. I own a design firm. I would love to be a designer. How about that? I would suck as a designer. I'm terrible at stick figures. How about them apples? Like, so just like, it's okay. You know, after 5 years, if you're just not there and you're not showing significant potential and you've had all the right mentors and the right education, then like, there are plenty of other doors that are still open to you. Like gajillions of them. So, all right, somebody was gonna add to that question.
Oh, I was just, you said that, you know, I'd be happy, you'd help the toxic people find another job, and I was
Yeah.
wondering if you've actually done that.
Yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's really cool.
Not with that attitude. Oh, as far as like, hey, let me help you.
Like you seem like
here's
you're
another
unhappy
company.
here. Let me, as a business owner.
Oh no,
take that
I'd be
to
like, hey,
please.
you know, listen, like you seem very unhappy. Like, let me help you out the door. I have helped. No, not as far as toxic people. No, I don't.
You wouldn't wanna put
If
that
you're
on
if you're toxic here, I can't put my name behind you and like all of a sudden think that you're going to be a happy person just because you're at a new job.
Mhm. Right.
So if you're a toxic person, you don't have the maturity to realize you're taking that out on the greater sum.
Yeah.
I do not believe in you as a professional. I believe in you as a human. I believe in, man, everybody as a human. I truly do. I have seen miracles with my own eyes. So, you know, I believe anybody can turn around and go from being a toxic, sad, entitled, even suicidal person to like a happy person, like the exact opposite of that.
Absolutely.
Absolutely can happen. I've been there, personally. I've been believe it or not, like wasn't good. Like I turned into a bad apple. As soon as I walked into that T-shirt screen printing company, within like a week, there was this guy there. I think his name was Dylan, and I heard him just like, "Man, this place. You need to get out of here as quick as possible." And then he was gone. Like a week or two later, he was gone. But then I saw a lot. But it had spread, and it had spread from this like one. I think she was like, I don't want to say her position because I know this is going on YouTube. But this one person, if they're wondering and watching this video and they're wondering, is it me? Then the answer is yes. Yeah. But this one person, and we've already narrowed it down because we said she's a she. And it literally like was spoiling the whole bunch. The whole company. It spread throughout the entire, it was like 40, 50 people. That's what happens when you have a toxic person who's junior that becomes a toxic person who's senior. And then a toxic person who now has a director title. There's just a toxic person from up there. And man, the trickle down, you know, is literally, I don't know how else to say this. This is very nasty and visual, sewage.
Yeah.
So it's like, that is what's trickling down as opposed to like brilliant ideas of positivity.
Right.
All right. What else? Oh, yeah, sorry. There's 100 questions that I have. Hiring top 2 to 3 qualities that I'm looking for in a junior designer. And I'm going to combine that with the portfolio question, what makes one stand out? So top 2 to 3 qualities was you, and portfolio, what makes you stand out was, a solid portfolio. That's your entryway. That's your key into the entryway, is a solid portfolio. I'm sure Shawna has been hammering on you guys about this, is developing a solid portfolio. If it's not good work, and other people are like, meh, don't put it in your portfolio.
Right.
I would rather see 2 to 3 good projects, 2 to 3 like pretty good projects, than 2 to 3 good projects that are diluted with 10 bad projects. If it's not good, if it didn't win awards, if it's not getting the recognition that you think it deserves as a creative, like, cut it.
Right.
Cut it out of your portfolio. It's nothing personal. This is your calling card for a conversation. All right. There's nothing personal. And if you can't pull the emotion out, like what you do and what we do as creatives, we put it out to the world, and then the world tells us if it's or not.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can't take it now, like that, develop that skill as quick as possible. Being able to take critique. God, top 2 to 3 though. Well, there's some really basic things, like just show up on time. Like, I know it seems so simple. I had somebody show up an hour late to an interview, and it was a company because we're a small company, it was a company interview day. It was like, not the whole day, but like we had it scheduled out, so each department would have a chance to interview this person. They showed up an hour late. It screwed up the whole schedule. They didn't apologize, and we didn't hire them. I'm going to come back to that because this person covers my do's and don'ts like big time. Oh man, there's just like these big check boxes. Yeah. And there's so many X's in those big check boxes. 2 to 3 qualities. Yeah, so I would say there's like your almost your entry fee to have a conversation is a solid portfolio with great work. You know, it shows not so much like variety from an artistic sense, but it shows that you're capable of designing in different ways. It shows your flexibility with color and type. You know, that like even if you can write a great headline, you know, copywriters are dying. Not like as individuals, but like the profession,
Right.
copywriters as a whole are dying. So like we really love designers who can write. We love that. That's awesome. And we expect that we develop that as a skill in our designers now. Yeah, so portfolio, timeliness, and follow-up are like, that's what gets you in the door just for a conversation. You know, that's like, if you don't have those 3 things, I won't interview you. I'm the gatekeeper because of our culture and making sure we're protecting it from toxicity. After that, it's about how well do you listen? You know, how not so much how kind are you, because like I don't want to, like I'm not looking for like the softer side of kindness, but like just thoughtful, you know. So great listener, thoughtful, and then yeah, just like really engaging. You know, like I'm looking for engaging conversation, because one of the things we did was like from one shop to the next to Parisleaf, right? From the t-shirt company to the marketing firm to Parisleaf. We had designers in the t-shirt shop that were hidden behind a sales rep. And the sales rep was a filter, and we were terrible filters because we didn't speak the language. We didn't know how to ask the right questions. So we went to the next marketing firm, and the marketing firm had their designers working directly with the clients. So the problem was marketing firms' creatives weren't that solid. So they didn't have the talent to bring those clients' visions to life. So now we have solid creatives that are also amazing communicators, and we put them directly in front of the client. You need to be able to pitch. You need to be able to present. You need to be able to defend your work. You need to be able to take critique, live action, and be basically told like, that I'm offended you even showed that to me. Like, you never know. A client could say that, and you have to be like, yeah, that's really intense. I'm sorry you feel that way. I want to go home and cry. But tell me a little bit more. Like, what's really what's about it? And like live action, getting almost like publicly shamed sometimes. It can feel like that. I can't say we've had any clients say that, but like their stakeholders may say that. You know, I mean, we put our work out there recently on rebranding the city of Gainesville. The whole world seemed like it was about to explode in Gainesville. It's like we rebranded the city, and like everything seemed like it was gonna blow up, you know? And like news articles are coming out, like all this drama. Talk about having your work, like talk about public lashings, you know? Like that was like, it was as public as it gets. And what do? You know, we jumped right in, we shaped the story, we framed the wave, and we wrote it into the shore. And we told the story the way it deserved to be told, because those that were telling the story were completely ignorant. And those that were telling the story and had a small little audience of like a few little cronies that were listening, we didn't even waste our time. You know? I don't need everybody to like what we do. I don't care. Does it work? We're creatives. It has to work. It has to be effective. Okay, so sorry, I'm like on another soapbox. So that's to get past me. So step one is like, are the basics there? Are you well written? Is your portfolio solid? Did you follow up well? Did you send a personalized cover letter? Like, if you find an agency or a company you really want to go work at, did you put in the time to prove that you want to work with me? Because if you didn't, then you're just another number. You don't want to be treated like another number, then stand out like you're not one. All right, so that's step one. That's just to have a conversation. Step two, you're meeting with me. We got like great listener, like kind, but not a pushover. Just great communicator, engaging conversation. Like positive, upbeat. Not acting like it, but you actually are. And then you get to the creative director, and that's when it gets into technical skills. He wants to see how you put together a file. How well is it organized? Serious. How well is it organized? Because if it's not well organized, then that means if you no longer work at the company someday when that happens, because it will, somebody may have to come behind you and look at that disorganized hot mess that you just left, selfishly, frankly, for other people to pick up the pieces. So like basic organization skills. Probably going to test you on type, ask you questions like, what are your favorite typefaces? And then he's going to judge you based on your favorite typefaces. He'll get an understanding of color. He'll have you walk him through his portfolio. He won't really check anything much on culture. He'll just kind of be doing gut checks because he knows that I'll have done the culture check. That Jen will have done the culture check. But yeah, it's going to be about the quality of the work. How solid are you? How well can you talk about it? Can you present to a client? And can you present to him like every day for the rest of your life, or as long as you're with us? So, all right. That was a 10-minute long answer. I gotta speed this up. All right. Top 2-3 qualities I'm looking for a junior designer. Saw that. On to you. About education. Don't need a degree. Did I have adversity because of lack of paper? I think people just assumed I had an education. And if they assumed it, I didn't tell them otherwise. Their fault for not asking. If they asked, I'd tell them. I'd tell them, depending on the circumstance, I would tell them where I went to school or that I was a college dropout. If I'm talking to a higher education institution, that's like one of our clients. We work in higher ed a lot. That piece of paper is pretty important. They need to know that you believe in their product, and I do, for some things. And I think that higher ed is becoming obsolete for some things. So how I did it was mentorship. I have some of the world's greatest mentors, like hands down. I hate reading. God, I hate reading so much. Like, it was such a passion. If I could, I would. What's that? There's a book about how they like burned all the other books. Fahrenheit 9/11. Is that what it is?
No, 451.
451. I would do that. Books, man, like they're great for fire. I hate reading, and I think that's part of why I was such a terrible student. I just have such a. I'm very. I'm an auditory learner, so like reading, my mind just gets lost. I have to read it 4, 5, 10 times, and it's so inefficient. I'd much rather drop out of school and risk my life. I think I experienced some personal adversity in that I had to come to believe that I could succeed in life regardless of the piece of paper. I think that was the biggest hurdle to overcome. And then I got to a place where I was too proud of it. Of being a dropout. It's yeah, I'm a rebel without a cause. Hopefully they just put some. So I had a mentor that was very old school, and he said to me, "You shouldn't tell people that." He also told me to shave my face. it's like, this is a different world, man. Like, you know, Steve Jobs and Bill Gates, I'm pretty sure, both college dropouts. Like, two of the most successful companies in the world were led by college dropouts. Like, there's something to be said for a rebel without a cause. The founder of Patagonia said in a talk, if you guys if you're interested in starting your own agency, How I Built This is an incredible podcast, especially if you're like me and an auditory learner. The founder of Patagonia basically said, and I'm summarizing here, if you want to understand the mind of an entrepreneur, just study those in the prison system. Not because of the ethical component, but because of the rebellion component. That's how you start a new business, is you go, I see how other schmucks are doing it, I think I can do it better. I think they're just a bunch of idiots. I couldn't agree more. I literally had two roads ahead of me. One led directly to prison within a year or two, and the other led to starting my own business and learning how to be an ethical businessman and figuring out how to channel that. It's like exact opposite worlds, you know? It's crazy to think about, but it's just that rebellious spirit. When people told me throughout my life, and this is why I've had so many jobs, when people have told me, Chad, you can't do that. Oh man, just thinking about it. Like, I have this thing inside of me that all of a sudden my cells just go like, whamoosh! And like everything inside of me fights those words. And then I'm naive enough to think I could do it. So there's that. Did I answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. Business owner wants to become one. How to save money or heartache, I think was your question. Yep. Gosh. I don't know if there is a way. I think money troubles and heartache is all just part of it. But I will say the most valuable lesson I've learned is once you figure out what you're built to do professionally, like you just know this is why I was put on the planet, and this is like, it's like hardwired into my DNA. Every fiber of my being is built for this. Don't quit no matter what. And you've probably heard that a gajillion times. But like, I am telling you, like, don't you quit. Like, no matter what. As a designer, as a business owner, as a teacher, like, don't throw in the towel, no matter what. Don't let anybody tell you you can't. That's bullshit. There are other doors. They just happen to not be with you. But like, that's probably the most valuable lesson that I have learned, and I've learned it through getting right on the edge of throwing in the towel. And, you know, all I could do was pray. Like, I was like, yeah, like brought to my knees, like all I could do is pray. And it was just like, help me. And what I meant was like, give me money. And what I was given was a life lesson that I've since given to thousands. And it would take me, like, to walk you through the story would take probably half an hour. It was incredibly intense, and it was just like one domino after another, after another, after another fell. And at the end of it was not a pot of gold. It was a pot of gold in the shape of a life lesson. That was just like, don't you dare quit, no matter what. If you obsess about this, if you wake up dreaming, if you go to sleep dreaming about it, you wake up thinking about it. If it's like all you do, you live, eat, breathe, and sleep this thing, just don't quit. Unless you're gonna get sick, because dying is gonna make you quit. And that can happen too. You know, that like the universe is like, no, like I bent it, you need to quit. That's when it's time to listen, you know. Portfolios, as far as what makes one stand out, I don't know if I'm the best person to ask that question to, but
I think you're a good person because a lot of times during the hiring process,
it is somebody
it's not
like
a
me.
creative that's interviewing us, so it's nice to know your perspective as well.
I think it's everything that encompasses the thanks. I think it's everything that encompasses the portfolio as well as the portfolio. And by the way, yeah, you're absolutely right. Because like we're a small shop of 8 people. One of those is a recruiter, and they're taking the reins on this. And that recruiter has no formal training in what you all do, and what we do. You know. Hopefully, that recruiter's palette has been developed. My palette has. I can tell good work now. I can tell solid work when I see it. It's hard for me to describe what it is. I think you all know what it is. Like, I think when you look out in the world and you see solid work. Compare that work to your work and say, is this good enough? There's your answer. Like, that's what I look for in a portfolio. Is like, is this as good as the work that I see out in the world that are from brands that I respect, or from our own portfolio? Compare the quality of your portfolio to the quality of our portfolio. Is this anywhere near the quality of our portfolio? So that's what we're looking for. Is like, are you good enough to do some work that's going to land in our portfolio? Because just like you, we're doing the same thing. That's all we have is our portfolio of work. All we have is, well, we don't need the piece of paper anymore, right? All we have is this portfolio work to say, we're telling you we can do this. We're doing the exact same thing. And if you can't do the level of work that's going to contribute to our portfolio, then you're just an anchor. And that may be okay. Like, maybe you can develop those skills and get better, and so we're still going to hire you. Because there's some other things we can have you do. Like, you can take a solid brand and you can explore it and activate it across different print mediums. We've given you a brand guide. Now you can run with it. But yeah, don't inundate with your work. I think just show your best work. And not the work that you're most proud of, but your best work. Even if everybody else is like, this is your best work. And then ask for feedback. If you didn't get the job or like somebody overlooked your work, call them up and figure out why. And then improve. I mean, that is what creativity I think should be as a difference between creative and art. It's like once it's on the canvas, that canvas is not changing, that's art. Creativity is an iterative process. Right. You know, it's like put it out in the world and like all of a sudden it just gets like jabbed to death. It's like, okay, it's like a little too bloody. We need to like really tighten it up. Portfolios, cover letters. Something that immediately turns me off is grammar. Oh, God. You just don't care. You are so selfish. Like, I don't mean anything to you is what that says. My time, I am reading this letter, and you don't care enough to check your own grammar? Or to have someone else check it? I don't care. I don't care if you had 10 people check it. I don't care if somebody else wrote it for you because you're a bad writer. Then, as long as you tell me I'm not a good writer. I would rather that than somebody who has bad grammar. And I say that as somebody who used to have bad grammar. Oh, God, I used to have just awful. I had to learn how to write an email, you know, let alone like a book report. So, God, yeah, grammar. Yeah, it makes me so angry thinking about that. It's like, it's just selfish. You're wasting my time. You don't care. You don't care enough to double and triple check your work. This is something that is personalized to me, supposedly. Or you just put my name on it and then send it to 100 people, hoping, like, I just need a job. It's like, that's the other thing. Like, if I can tell you just need a paycheck, man, not at my shop. Okay, so cover letters, yeah, something that immediately turns me off. And something that immediately makes me want to see the resume is exact opposite. I can tell you want to work with it, like, you want to, like, you're already living and breathing Parisleaf. You have read everything we've ever put out there. Every word we have ever put out there. You have dripped over everything that we have ever said about anything. You've read it all. You've read our social media posts. You've checked out our Instagram. You've looked at our case studies. You've looked at our blog posts. You are obsessed with our shop. That turns me on as an entrepreneur. Like, I want to know that you are hungry and you want to come work not just at a shop, you want to come work at my shop. But like, it's literally like turning one key after the next, It's literally just one door after the next, after the next. That's all it is. That just gets you the next door. Now we got to find out if your work's good enough. So I've now looked at your resume, which frankly I don't give a about. I don't care what your GPA was. I care where you
We don't
worked.
put GPA on them. But,
Don't.
but sometimes they do. Yeah,
Don't.
mine don't.
Don't.
Yeah. Mm-mm.
Don't. It doesn't matter.
It has no bearing.
I was a terrible student. I don't care. You know? Yeah, it just doesn't matter anymore. So for those of you that are like pulling your hair out, like, oh, I need to be a 4.0, like, shut up. No, you don't. You know, you need to learn critical thinking skills and how to like communicate. You know, like look up from the book and talk to each other. Anyway, so now I'm looking at your resume. I want to see that you were not entitled as a junior designer and you just jump from one shop to the next, to the next, to the next every year. I want to see that you can hunker down for 3+ years at a job. You want to talk about grit? That's grit. You are paying Santa Fe College for an education that you can then proceed for the next 4 years to give them the middle finger and still come out with a piece of paper. You want to talk about grit? Grit is, I am paying you. I want to see that you can keep a job for 3 years, because if you gave me the middle finger, you're out. So now we move on to the portfolio and we've talked about. We talked about that. Good? Who was that? Cover letter, no, I got that one. Do's and don'ts for cover letter, resume, portfolio.
That was Marina.
And interviews.
Oh, and interview.
So I'll tell you the interview.
Yeah.
We literally hired somebody that read everything that we had ever written or ever said, ever. She wrote a custom cover letter, completely ignored who we told her to write it to, and just wrote it to our creative director. No. I think the initial one was probably to me, and the follow-up cover letter was written to our creative director. Had bullet points, perfect grammar. I mean, like, flawless grammar. And English was her second language. You know, like, perfect grammar. So, yeah, that's what stood out. And it was, I mean, it's exactly what I just described. And then she was lovely, great listener, incredibly empathetic, great conversation. She had solid technical chops. I didn't care. She had 3 master's degrees. I do not care. I've seen people who have like 3 PhDs and are still idiots. Still clueless about life.
Right.
Great, that's awesome. You are a professional student. That's it. 3 master's degrees, I did not care at all. As far as I'm concerned, that's just a fancy term for another associate's degree. That's all it is. You just went back to school for another year or 2 after your bachelor's degree, and now they call it a master's. Not all master's degrees are created equal. That means nothing to me. And an MBA does not impress me at all either. So she had 3 master's degrees. It was like, okay, feather in the cap, but you need to get a lot of feathers in that cap for you to be hired here. But man, she was timely, she was lovely, like she was like a great cultural fit. She knew everything there was ever to be known about Parisleaf. She loved the work, we loved her. And so we shipped her over here from Spain. And you know what she was competing with? Another designer in Serbia.
That's wrong.
Awesome. Super wicked designer. Dimitri J. I can't remember his last name. And another designer from Canada. And another designer from Rhode Island. That's what she was competing with. And not because like there are no like is some specific design. This is a graphic designer, and that's what she was competing with. Like we were looking for the best of the best of the best of the best. That also happened to be really lovely people. So that's Parisleaf. That's what we're looking for in senior talent. That is somebody who has like honed their craft. They can talk about it, and they're also decent people. The don'ts. Oh man, I got one. All right, I gotta watch the time. This guy's super talented. Went to SCAD. Didn't you go to SCAD? Went to SCAD. Started his own shop as a sophomore. Started an agency as a sophomore. He had like 8 contractors working for him full time. Super impressed, right? His work is solid. What did I say? Okay, all right.
I'm laughing.
I was just making sure I didn't say something that can be offensive sometimes. But, oh, I'm sorry. I mean, like, wicked impressive, right? Like, spoke from the heart. You know, like, we really hit it off. He seemed like he wanted to be more on the product design side. But then when we really got to talking about what branding is, he was like, you know, I know I talked about this, but I really want to keep this door open. Like, we were both really intrigued by each other, so we kept the conversation going. My creative director looked at his work. He was like, I don't know, maybe I'll talk to him. Gets on the phone with him, like, super impressive, like, perfect junior designer that has spent like the time going to school and honing their craft and becoming an expert. Could be a senior designer. We're gonna kind of like it was kind of on the tipping point, and so we were like, man, we're really impressed by this guy. He showed up an hour late, wearing a T-shirt and tennis shoes and jeans. It was a nice T-shirt. It was it's a white V-neck and tennis shoes. Drove a Ford Mustang convertible, which was great. I was like, you know, I don't care what kind of car you drive. But he showed up an hour late. I thought, all right, cut him some slack. He did just drive in from Savannah. Interviews, the team's like, yeah, we like him. But him showing up an hour late and then not apologizing. He was like, oh man, got the time mixed up. So we gonna do this? And had a little bit of arrogance, which I think isn't always a bad thing, you know? It depends on the level. And like, are you capable of kind of putting that away? Sends me a follow-up, hey, it was a pleasure meeting with you and your team. Here is a receipt for my rental.
What?
Show up an hour late, wearing a T-shirt, tennis shoes, driving a Ford Mustang, which I don't care about. You're completely unapologetic. And you didn't even ask for my permission to rent a car. I totally would have rented a car for you, but it would have been like, I don't know, Prius.
Right.
On my dime, you can expletive off. A cliff. You know, like, so don't do that. Yeah. Which seems so obvious, but God, he was so skilled. Oh, he was so talented. We
Sounds
really.
like ego. Sounds like ego to me.
Yeah, there was definitely a component of that.
Was the problem.
Yeah, even when I was like, hey, so we're not going to hire you. Let me know if you want to know why. He emailed back, was like, no, I'm good. Thanks for the opportunity. Just, you know, reimburse me for the rental when you get a chance. And I didn't even respond to him. I absolutely will not pay for your Ford Mustang convertible without you even asking for my permission. That was so kind of you and thoughtful for you to spend my... Yeah, anyways. All right, so we're going to move on. Oh, God. That one made me so angry. He's so talented, you know? And it's like, yeah, I think it is the arrogance. Like, dude, just put it away. I get it. You're great. But you don't have, you know, yeah, anyways. Oh, man, that made me so mad. Best leave behind or thing that someone sent me, a mailer, something that left an impression. I don't know. Who asked that? Yeah. Somebody was coming for a sales position, you know, interview, like made it through all the check boxes and then sent a, you know, beautiful follow-up and dropped off a flower for me. Which I was like, you know, I'm not really into that. Like, I like put it on my nightstand, like, you know, spritz it. But it was like really thoughtful that they did something 3-dimensional, you know. God, just follow up. Like, it's such a basic thing. Just follow up.
And it's really stunning how many people do not follow
Yeah.
up. Like, it's just like
Yeah.
beyond me that people
Yeah.
don't follow up. When you're the
I'll
one
help
that's
you with
looking for
this.
the job.
Yeah. Follow up. just follow up. It's such a basic thing. Don't ever apply to even if you don't want it, follow up, because you can burn your bridge. That guy, I will make sure nobody ever hires. I can't believe I just said his name on YouTube. But I will make sure. Check out his work. Look at him.
Trolling in the comments.
But I will make sure, like, if anybody ever came to me and said, hey, I got this guy, he mentioned you apply, like, run. Run from that kid. You know?
So you didn't feel like that was a bribe or any kind of, like, what if she or he sent you, like, a chocolate or, like, a cookie
No.
basket? Something
Yeah,
like that.
careful.
Okay.
You don't want to come off as like creepy stalkerish, you know? But like, say you had this very personable conversation, right? I'm about to hire a sushi chef to go do a private event at my client's house for him and his wife as a thank you for a referral. He doesn't even know it's coming. They just got back from Japan. I know they ate some really great sushi. They got here and they were like, oh, we got to deal with this crap again. But it was like literally being pulled out of the ocean, like brilliant, you know, like super good. And I have a brilliant sushi chef that I've hired. Like, I don't think that's too, but like the relationship is there.
Right.
You know, like those components, like we built that level of trust, and now I'm going to ask them for their permission. It would be my honor if you would let me do this.
I think
If
it would
it
also
came
come
up.
from, if you've done your research on the company, then you kind of get an idea.
Yeah.
You know, what their interests are, what they're into.
I'll give you a great example. So there's a brand out of Sioux City Falls called Lemonly. They have lemons all over the place. Their brand lemon, like their logo's lemon, like lemons, everything's yellow, lemons all over the place. Like doing something creative there. Not a basket of lemons, not a gallon of lemonade,
Right.
but like something really creative.
Instead of an orange.
Because you're from Florida.
That's really funny. That's really funny. Sorry, I spit on you. That's really funny. Yeah, no, like something that clearly makes you stand out. That's like, hey, I just want to let you know, like, I really admire your brand. Rebrand them, you know? Like, you know, hey, if you were to live in Florida, this is what it would look like.
Right.
You know? Or you're like, or Georgia, you can call them just Peachy, you know? Yeah, anyways.
Your brand in 50 states.
Yeah, but I think doing something really creative. Don't be, especially if you want to, like, if it's like, man, I really want to work at this company. I want to prove to them that I have a lot of potential, and then I'm like, I want to live and breathe this brand and this culture. Don't be afraid to go after them. Someone who has the potential but doesn't have the refinement. A couple of years ago, yes. Now, very, very rarely. Maybe every other year. It's more hassle than it's worth.
Okay, well, what if so I say that, but like if they have skills, but they're just not like as refined as you want them to be. Like
Yeah.
you could definitely see.
Yeah. If we're hiring a junior designer, sure. And we're actually getting ready to hire a junior designer. But it's gonna be really competitive.
Right.
You know, if
Do you think at this stage of your agency that you're looking for someone who's already refined them maybe at another location? You know, they've had a job for 3 years and they refined them and you're
as a
ready
junior designer, that would be nice.
Yeah.
Actually, my two favorite candidates that I'm going to tell to throw their name in the hat, because it is all about who you know, but I can almost tell you're probably not going to get the job. Probably would have gotten the job a few years ago because of like the level that our talent that our shop was at, but now the level's not there anymore. It's more about the quality, and then finding those people that we think could match well. Yes, I am open to that. If we have a junior designer position open, they have like clear, like just like raw talent, you know. And like that's the other thing I want to see is, when you get out of school, what do you do?
Right.
When you're done with your projects, what do you do?
Right.
Do you come up with your own projects? Are you reading other blogs? Are you following other designers? Have you reached out to other designers? I had a high schooler reach out to Polishair. Who knows who Polishair is?
You better all know.
No? Yes? No? Yes? No? And then yeses. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. She's probably the most respected designer in the world. That is alive. If you don't know who that is, then you may not be as passionate as you think about design. If you haven't seen her name, I mean, she is literally like, she's in the like Hall of Fame as a designer.
Yes.
So finding who that is and obsessing about her work, unless you don't want to be an amazing, like, you know, world-class designer, that's okay. There's plenty of room for like mid-level, mediocre, kind of good designers. There really is. There is. To be like a rock star, so you have like designers, then you have like mediocre designers, you have like kind of good designers, then you have good designers, then you have great designers. Then you have rock stars, then you have a superstar. You all are all the way down here, and the question is, do you want to go up here? In theory, maybe you can get up here, right? A lot of it's, some of it's luck. A lot of it's just raw grit, and a lot of it's skill. Paul Scher's here. And I talked to somebody else recently who's on that superstar level, and I was told he was on that superstar level. I didn't even know his name, by a copywriter who was on the rock star level, who said, that's the guy I studied in school. And I got to talk to him. And he ripped me like a couple of new assholes, and I loved it. It's amazing. So anyway, so this high schooler, this is why I started. So this high schooler reaches out to me and says, you know, seen your work, want to talk to you, want to pick your brain, want to figure out how to do this. Like, wanted to be a designer. He's in high school, doesn't have a piece of paper, but he has like the a lot of the work. Like, you can tell he wants it, you know. He had just talked to Paula Scher the week before. He reached out to her as a high schooler. Was like, hey, I really want to do this. Would you be willing to talk to me? As a high schooler, you know. This guy, the superstar level copywriter I was telling you about, Ed McCabe. Ed McCabe. If you're not writing it down, write it down. Ed McCabe. Paul Scher, Ed McCabe. Got a chance to talk to Ed McCabe for, I think it was 12 minutes and 47 seconds, or 13 minutes, 47 seconds. Man, he just, oh God, he told me so many assholes. And it basically was just like, your work's not good enough. You guys have seen our work. I'm sure you like our work. That's fantastic. I love that, you know. And he didn't say it just like, you know, oh, it's so easy to say, like, these work is you know. It's not like that. Like, no, he was like, no, it's not good enough. And he's right. We could get so much better, you know. We have a ton of room to grow. It's pretty good, you know. I don't think we're a rock star shop yet. I think we're pretty good. We're good. And it's hard to get to that level. Is really hard. It has taken so much time to get there. How did I get on that point? I don't know.
It was the
Talk about potential and
potential.
Oh yeah, the kid reaching out to Paul Scher. Yeah, good God. Yeah, they
Well, and she's so awesome. She would say, yeah,
yeah.
because he took the risk.
She
loves
probably
that.
wouldn't talk to me.
She loves
Yeah.
risk.
Oh, and this guy Ed McCabe dropped out of high school and is now in the Hall of Fame as a copywriter. Dropped out of high school. Started in the mailroom of an agency. Worked his way up. Ended up running a multi-billion-dollar agency. Running it, growing it, like stupid. And he started when I was like 27. He was a jerk, but learned a lot. Yeah, so yes, to answer your question. If there's a position open and you get through all those doors, then yeah, I'd absolutely do it. But you gotta have a lot of like it is just clear. It's like, man, that's like raw talent. That's at our shop.
Right.
You know, there's 3 other shops in town that like that bar is much lower. That's probably where we were about 3-4 years ago. It would have been much easier to get in.
Right.
Now it's like, if we just hired our senior designer from Spain, it doesn't mean don't throw your name in the hat, but like we want somebody who can go there.
Right.
You know. Salary for an entry-level junior designer around 30, 35, depending. Yeah. For a senior designer, you probably get between 45 and 75, depending on how senior. For a creative director, for an art director, you're probably getting up like 65 to 85 for creative director. Associate creative director is probably about the same, and then a creative director, you're probably getting up 80 to about 130.
So by the hour, that is?
No, that's annual.
$130,000 a year. Yeah. So 30. So as a junior designer, it's about $35,000 a year, which $30 an hour would be about $60,000 a year, and that ain't happening as a junior designer at our shop. You may be able to get it in bigger cities where the cost of living is absurdly more, and so it just inflates how much you think you're making, but you are like you're losing. I mean, I've seen people make like $40,000-$50,000 a year in New York. And they're like one step away from homeless. You know, it's crazy. Challenges. I got about 10 minutes left. So my challenge is creating a business. Certain stuff. You had like one question, so I'm gonna make sure and get to you. Actually, my challenge in creating a business, I think, came from you as well. Certain style we're looking for a design. I think I already pretty much covered that, but like, you know, it's not just unique for the sake of being unique. It's like you do it and you do it really well and you've honed that craft, and it's not this like you know, I think it's wonderful, I don't care. It's like, is it solid or is it not? That's great. Hone a bunch of different crafts, like a bunch of different styles. I need to be able to look at the work and not tell your gender. That's another big thing. Like, your work can't feel gender specific. And I don't know, unless I am a shop that focuses on, you know, just football teams or something like that, or just, you know, perfumerias, or, you know, like clear gender specific products. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Okay. Challenges in creating a business. God, there have been so many. Just do it. You know, that is the first challenge. Like, I think probably 90% of it is finally just getting the gumption to just do it. 5% is then figuring it the hell out, and like not quitting no matter what. And then 5% is getting really lucky, and that 5% will be the difference between you being homeless or being very successful. But yeah, like we thought of this business idea. I quit my job. We got a business license. We launched the business within a week. We had never had any business ideas together before, ever. All of a sudden, my wife and I had this idea, and we're just like, fuck it, let's go. It was like everything was laid. The foundation was perfect. Our cost of living wasn't that high. We didn't have any kids. We were responsible. We could survive on like $1,500 a month. We did. We ate like ramen noodles, yellow beans and rice, and we shared $5 footlongs for a long time. That's what it took, you know. Look at me now. Yeah.
Get your own footlong.
Just kidding. Yeah. This used to be my computer. Like, not this exact phone, but like I had like a Bluetooth keyboard because we couldn't afford a computer. I still have like a MacBook Air. That, like, you know, I'm sure we could, but like I don't, you know, we don't have an absurd amount of money. I don't want to make that expense. Like, spend an extra $1,000 on a computer I don't need. And it's like a couple years old, you know. But like, I drive a Genesis, which is a sweet car, but it is a Hyundai, but it's sweet. It's really
The coupe
it's
or
nice.
the sedan?
The sedan. Yeah. 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 It's a really, really nice car. It's, you know, it's 2015. But like, the one before that was 2007 Prius, with like 160,000 miles on it, and the paint chipping off. You know, it's not as glamorous as it can look from the outside, and it is brutal. Man, I've got so many gray hairs now. You know, I had a full head of black hair. So I'm leaving that for Steve.
He can frame it.
But yeah, it is. Man, it's brutal. Yeah, you will get. I mean, be ready. You have got to have some thick skin, which I don't, and somehow I made it through. Yeah, I mean, I by no means have made it. There's still a long way to go. All right, worst thing about working with clients and what I wouldn't do for them. Gosh, that sounds like really inappropriate. I wouldn't do a lot of inappropriate things for them, but worst thing about working with clients. I don't know. I love clients. I mean, we interview our clients the way we interview our employees. We want to make sure that our clients are going to treat us like teammates. We're not a vendor. We're a partner. And not in reality, on paper, but in theory, we are partners. You are trusting us with a lot of money. And if we're just a vendor, then we're just like your dog that's going to take your orders. That's not why you hire us. You hired us because you can't do this on your own. And like there needs to be that degree of confidence, not arrogance, that we can then go, okay, you've hired us as the professionals. Our job is to tell you the good, bad, and the ugly, and to take a completely objective perspective to help you figure out how to tell your story. But if you're a jerk, we'll fire you like that. I won't subject my team to that. It's the bad apple. It's the same theory. I won't subject my team to it. We have had one abusive client. That's how good my interviewing process is. In 8 years, I just realized that. In 8 years, we've had one abusive client, and it turned into an abusive relationship in that I interviewed the executive director, and then they passed us off to our day-to-day contact, who was a total jerk. And he had been with the company for 13 years. And he turned on my team. And I called up the client. I said, we are either canceling the contract, you're firing him, or you're just going to take him off the project and we'll work with you. As far as I'm concerned, though, we're canceling the contract. Our work here is done. I won't subject myself and my team to your employee's abuse. The next day, after 13 years of being with the company, he was gone. We helped him find a new job. But he was a total jerk. And I wouldn't abuse my employees. What makes you think I'm going to let you abuse my employees? Work so hard to protect them. I think we've had one more. And we've had jerks from time to time, and then clients who just have bad moments, but consistently abusive, just one that I can think of. And actually at the same company, we had, they replaced him later, and she was terrible. We ended up firing him anyways. I think it was a mutual parting, because it was just man, really bad at hiring. Yeah, what I wouldn't do for them is just take their abuse. So, percentage of employees who are from people we knew. I'm still here, so I'm counting. I think less than half. Okay. Maybe 25%. Maybe about half, actually. But it's a client.
I'm talking about just someone referred or. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's 25%.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe a client referred them over to us.
Right. Or someone that you know.
Yeah. Met them in the community. Yeah. Yeah. So I'd say about half. But yeah, it really doesn't matter to me. That helps, but if they, I get referrals all the time, and I don't care. If you're good, we'll hire you. If you're smart, we'll hire you. If you're kind, and you're qualified, and you're skilled, and you come at a reasonable price tag, we will figure it out. But I don't care. It's kind of one less door, which is really, could be broken down with an email, a well-written email. 1 minute. What we do to keep the creativity flowing and conflict. So creativity flowing, we try and go on retreats and really just connect as a team. We eat lunch Monday through Thursday as a team together. On Fridays we go out as a team and have lunch together. We try and celebrate anniversaries and birthdays, actually doing something fun. My assistant loves dumpster diving and consignment shopping. Like if she were a millionaire, she would still dumpster dive. Like she just loves that, and not like in the gross way,
Right.
but like like college kids throwing nice furniture away because it's just an inconvenience kind of way. Yeah, and so we actually some of our other employees built her a consignment shop in our parking lot, and made her Rachel Bucks. And so like it's like little things like that. And then flip a script. I think we did like a not a Super Mario Kart, where like one of our designers actually like built out the cardboard box and then we all had to wear masks, and like she got Yoshi and so like we all just like chased each other around and like throwing bananas at each other, and so like we do quite a few things to connect, but we used to do a lot more. I mean, we lunch together as a team every single day. That Parisleaf is catering 3 days a week, and we realized that it was more important to pay our employees' bills and health insurance than it was to like be besties. Like we're a business. Yeah. Gosh, conflict. Yeah, I think I covered. I think I started to cover it, but it happens. It's important. It's like I think the definition of adversity. And gosh, I wish I were going out on a stronger note than this, but like it needs to happen. It's all in how you handle it. Like you don't need to be aggressive or arrogant or curse or get angry. Like that is 100% unacceptable. Condescension, like being condescending, like totally unacceptable. But having differing opinions and pushing for those based on research, based on the desire to make the best idea for the client or the company, that's great. It's got to happen, or to improve somebody's role or to push them to grow as a professional, it's got to happen, So we shouldn't be afraid of it. I think we're also afraid of conflict, so we just text each other. And like, oh, I get a backspace because I didn't mean that. It's like, well, you don't get to backspace in life,
Right.
So, anyways, I think that's it for me. But
Thank you,
thanks.
Chad.
Yeah, it was really fun. Appreciate it. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, good question.